everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the group exhibit of hydrogen fuel cells and batteries at Hannover Messe 2014. Today's discussion is business development opportunities for hydrogen and fuel cells in Connecticut. I will start with introductions on my left. I have Angelo, Deputy Commissioner of Connecticut from Department of Economic and Community Development. Then you're welcome. And then Szymanski, Director of Government Business from Proton OnSite. And then Zakiul Chief Technology Officer from ClearEdge Power.
Thank you.
So I will start the discussion today with you, Ron. I just wanted to ask, what is the significance of the Northeast region in terms of the hydrogen and fuel cell sector?
Well, the Northeast region of the United States, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and that area has just a tremendously rich history within the fuel cell industry. Dates well back, actually, a lot of it happening in the 50s, but starting in the 60s, every rocket that went into outer space, every piece of equipment that landed on the moon, and equipment that even has landed on Mars had a Connecticut fuel cell in it. So we were kind of the birthplace of this industry, and we've got an amazing base of talent in research, in intellectual property in the state of Connecticut, and we've got a phenomenal group of companies who have now taken this rich history and moved it forward into the next generation. So we are very proud of the history that we have in the fuel cell industry, but very optimistic and even more proud of the future that this industry holds to our state.
What types of hydrogen fuel cell companies are located in the Northeast region of the U.S., and approximately how many are in the region?
Well, in the whole region, let's start with Connecticut. We have 10 original equipment manufacturers in the state of Connecticut. In New York and Massachusetts, surrounding states of Connecticut, there's another 15. So there's a total of 25 original equipment manufacturers. On top of that, just Connecticut alone has an additional 600, roughly, supply chain companies. So we have a tremendous number of companies working in this industry, and these are focused on both the transportation side as well as the side that's a stationary side of the fuel cell industry. So we actually have both, and we're producing all sorts of fuel cells, again, for the automotive industry, on buses and fleets, but also large stationary fuel cells for large facilities and even microgrids.
What are the opportunities for companies, and new opportunities for hydrogen and fuel cell companies within the area?
Well, as far as new opportunities go, it's not just within Connecticut and the Northeast, but it's throughout America. We are a growing economy. We are a very, very large consumer base, and we're going to continue to grow. So it's certainly a marketplace, both from a labor standpoint and the quality of labor, access to capital, and the markets for these fuel cells. It's a market that companies, European companies especially, are going to want to be in. We want to continue to attract companies to the state of Connecticut and join forces and work along with the very fine companies that we already have in Connecticut to continue to grow our base, continue to grow our intellectual property, do research, and work on the advanced capabilities that actually bring these new developments to market and actually into practicality. So it's not just thinking up the good ideas and doing the research, but it's taking those capabilities, advancing them, and moving them into the marketplace. And that's what Connecticut is very suited to do. We've got that capacity, we've done it before many times, and we're going to be doing it many times in the future.
What sort of resources are available to the companies, foreign companies especially, that are looking to perhaps base themselves in Connecticut?
Well, that's a great question. I'd love to answer that because there's nothing we can't do as a state. Again, we are uniquely positioned. We are a fairly small state. We're a state of scale. Yet what we have at our hands in Connecticut, we're right between New York and Boston. So you have two of the largest cities by population anywhere on the East Coast. We're situated right between there. So we have amazing access to talent. That talent is linked to many of the finest universities that you'll find anywhere in the world. You've got Harvard and MIT and Yale and Princeton, all right there. So we've got a great collaboration between the business community, the research side of that, and the universities. On the state side, I have incentives in programs that can help actually a two-person startup all the way to a 2,000 head corporate headquarters. We could do everything. We can help on the manufacturing side. We can help on the research side. And we've got programs that help finance companies, so we can actually take a company from Europe, from Germany, bring them to Connecticut, help them find a location, help them fund the setup of that location, finance machinery and equipment, make sure that they have got all the available and necessary access to talent, even provide working capital. And then all the linkages that you need within this industry and the customers that are looking into this industry to purchase some of the technology out of this industry. We can bring all of that together as a state.
What about in terms of policy? Is there any policy in place regarding this in the state? Specifically, pardon me, in terms of infrastructure?
We have two things in place. On the stationary side, we've actually gone on a program. We're establishing microgrids throughout Connecticut. Not so much for the cost saving side, though that helps, but really for predictability. And that's what we have found. In our very, very high-tech manufacturers, they need predictability. They cannot have interruptions in power supply. And that's what fuel cells can provide. On the transportation side, we are working on a very, very broad strategy over the next few years that will basically provide the hydrogen network that the transport and the vehicles are going to need in the future. So we're pulling all of that together on a regional basis. So it's not, when you talk about strategies, it can't be just Connecticut. It has to be much more regional and much broader. And the interesting part of when you look at a state like Connecticut, within about a 350-mile radius is roughly 30% of the entire U.S. population, and 30% of the consumable wealth of the entire country is right within that pocket. So when you look at access to talent, when you look at access to capital, when you look at institutions such as universities and talent, it's all right there, and it's a great spot. Anyone who's looking to get a starting point in North America, Connecticut, the Northeast, is absolutely the ideal place to do that. From there, it's easy to branch out throughout the country.
Thank you. Stephen, I have a question for you. In terms of Proton OnSite, why do you think Connecticut's a good place to operate? And perhaps you can just provide a bit of information about your company overview in terms of products and services that you offer.
Sure. Thank you. And yes, Proton OnSite is a Connecticut-founded, Connecticut-based company. We've been in the state for more than 18 years now, and for us, we need a talented workforce, highly educated, skilled. We also need a supply chain that supports the product lines that we're developing. And for us, electrolysis is still a fairly specialized product to make, and we have found an excellent supply chain in the area, partly because, as Ron said, Connecticut really is kind of the birthplace of hydrogen and fuel cell technology. And so for us, it's been a great place for us to do business and grow. We're a growing company, and we have, future significant growth plans within the state of Connecticut, specifically because we have the educated workforce, we have the supply chain, and we have the kinds of infrastructure in place as well as incentives. I mean, we've been a direct beneficiary of incentives and investment from the state of Connecticut to help move our business forward, and that's been really critical for us, and that's why we have long-term growth plans in the state of Connecticut.
I guess same to you, Zakiul. What are the benefits of Connecticut for you in terms of operation, and how is ClearEdge Power involved in market applications in Connecticut?
Sure. In my mind, Connecticut I consider as the clean energy capital of the world. With the genesis of the fuel cell, as Ron pointed out, all manned space vehicle always carried a fuel cell that was designed and built in Connecticut. So that was the genesis of the fuel cell technology, and then that technology was reconfigured for real-world application, but we maintain the heritage of all of the development and production still in Connecticut. So what makes Connecticut special and unique and allows companies like us to prosper are primarily two. One is the political environment, very supportive administration with respect to policy and incentives. And then the second one, which has been mentioned by both speakers here, is the talent pool. We don't have to go outside of the state territory to attract any specialty skills. And this includes highly specialized engineers, scientists, or or people with the aptitude in mechanical skills, hourly labor. So we have both levels of talent pool available in the neck of our woods. So those are the two things that really make Connecticut a great place for companies like us to thrive.
What does the future hold in Connecticut for such companies? Where is the growth potential?
Well, I think the growth potential is, there is growth potential within Connecticut as far as applications within Connecticut, but we're looking at supporting our companies with all the things we just talked about these last few minutes, but really the market is a global market. So we want to make sure that our companies are well positioned to continue with the research they're doing, the applied advanced applications that they're doing, but making sure that they've got access to all of the global markets, because that's really what this is. I mean, fuel cells, they are going to be utilized in so many different ways. We see them throughout this show, but certainly on an international basis. So Connecticut is going to utilize them in some of our larger institutions. We're going to utilize them in microgrids. We're going to utilize them on the transportation side, not just in Connecticut, but in the Northeast. But we want our companies, I'm looking at these two guys and saying, hey, we want you to grow. I want you to look outside of the Northeast. I want you to look outside of Connecticut. We want you to look outside of the U.S. and go after the customer base, show them what Connecticut's got. They're well positioned to do that. We have by far, we have some of the best products anywhere in the world in this institution.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Deputy Commissioner or Proton OnSite or ClearEdge Power that you would like to discuss? No? Is there anything further that you guys want to add regarding your involvement in market applications and how you can benefit the international community here?
Yeah, I mean, Ron said it well. I mean, companies like ours and ClearEdge need to be competitive on a global basis, and that's why we're here. But I think, a lot of that starts with our operations, our manufacturing, and our development operations, which are based in Connecticut. So, the good thing is, like I said, we have a state agency that is extremely supportive of us, helps us to be successful and bring our products, successful products to the international markets. And so I think it's, while we keep talking about Connecticut, it's really with an eye towards having great products that we can bring to markets like here in Europe.
Any words of advice and encouragement for participants in the audience to get involved, and any next steps for you?
Well, I think the last part of your question is what can we do to assist European companies or global companies? It's come and talk to us. Come and talk to the state of Connecticut, talk to the representatives. If we are looking to assist European companies on making investments in the United States, in particular making investments in Connecticut, and using that as a base of operations for research, design, advanced applications, commercialization, and utilization of our markets throughout the entire U.S. So any way that we can be of assistance, we will bring all of our talents, all of our resources to bear.
For those in the audience, just so you're aware, these Connecticut companies are based in the corner of the exhibit hall around D78 and C70. So if you have any further questions, you want to meet them in person and ask them more about the companies or more ways to get involved with the Northeast region, I encourage you to do so. We're getting towards the end of our time here, so I want to thank everyone for being on stage and everyone in the audience.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you.